Guillemette Ferrando. I am the daughter of Isabelle Ferrando. We are a small family estate in Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and we are a rather young estate for Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So the history of my domain starts in 2003. My mother used to be a banker, and she decided to change of life. So this is a history of falling in love with wine, with my father as well, and with Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Châteauneuf is the oldest appellation in the world because we invented the idea, the principle of appellation. So we are a bit different from the rest of the estates because we are young. So we respect tradition, but we defend a new vision. And so my mother has created a new idea towards finer, more delicate and more elegant wines in Châteauneuf. And when she started, she got noticed very quickly by Robertpacodo, one of the most famous wine journalists. And on her first vintage, he gave her 100 points out of 100. And he wrote an article saying, "A star is born."
하는 기사를 썼다고 합니다.
So now I have a lot of pressure on my shoulders to keep following this path towards elegance and accents. And I did a harvest and the harvest and vinifications there in 2022, September 7th. So I stayed for 3 months. And I was always going to San Francisco.
Say like when I started, but like I liked just drinking things. But since I also like traveling a lot, like whenever I visit like a country, like I think it's like an experience that I kind of experience their own drinks, like their own alcohol, like soju in Korea and wine. So like I went to winery when I was in the States and when I was in Chile, and like beer museum when I was in Netherlands and like that. And I think that was the like
You
first,
got your interest
yeah.
in it. It is a passioning world, especially since when you start, you understand how much you don't know,
Yeah,
and as
right.
much as you're learning, you know that you need to learn more.
And it was like almost at the same time when I was turning to 30, and I was kind of like sick and tired of drinking soju, and I was thinking about maybe I can start drinking wine, but like those my friends around me, they were like, oh, if you start drinking wine, you know something like, you're not like a snobby, you know. So and then I joined like a wine community, and then I started learning about wine, and I got like into wine like so much.
That's so nice.
Yeah. So these days whenever I travel, I visit wineries.
Oh, perfect.
So I went to Châteauneuf-du-Pape
Oh, where
and
did you
Northern
go?
Rhone. CDP 19 summer. So I did travel from like Nice, Provence, Avignon.
So you know Provence.
Yes.
You know everything. Did you like it?
Mhm.
How long did you stay there for?
Like the trip was 3 weeks in total.
근로장 생판 올려드리겠습니다.
You're the certified wedding and certified wine
And it's very important to us, the procurement of the women.
which means that it is almost
어.
Later would be with
안 보이잖아 아니면.
So we are starting with the red Côte du Rhone. And this is a 2022 Béature du Rhone with the main component of Grenache. Grenache 80%, Syrah 20%. It is named a Côte du Rhone, but in reality, this plot that we make the wine with, this plot is the first one outside of Châteauneuf. So it is very close to Châteauneuf. It could be a small Châteauneuf. Here we're looking for all the boldness, the sensuality of Grenache that brings a lot of red berries to the wine, and a tiny bit more of verticality with the Syrah. And we let the wine only in concrete tanks in order to get this very nice texture, the roundness of the tannins, and this freshness at the end. So it should be a wine that you enjoy any day, anytime.
이 와인은 언제 어디서나 좀 편하게 마실 수 있는 와인이라고 합니다.
There's an idea of easiness here. We work on it so it's more drinkable.
Oh, and I had a question.
Yes.
So when I went to Champagne and Burgundy this time, like all the people, like wine growers there, like 2024 was really bad.
Vintage.
Yes. The weather was really terrible, so the yield was really bad. It was like 30% lower than like average vintage. So how about the Rhone area?
So we are way deep south, as you know. We're more in the south, and it was a harder year than usual.
Ah, okay.
But it was not that bad because we have the sun for us, and we have another very good friend, which is le Mistral. And le Mistral is this very strong wind
Mistral.
that blows. Maybe you had Mistral when you were in southern France.
Yes.
And the Mistral dries everything out after the rain. And usually, when it rains at my place, the Mistral starts right afterwards. So it really helps us. That being said, it was still a hard vintage, and we lowered the yields by 2.
Oh, okay.
But 23 was a very generous vintage in terms of yields. So we were a little bit under the average,
Ah, okay.
but not that bad. Compared to other regions, I'm not complaining.
Ah, okay.
It's very easy to make very good wine in a very small quantity. But the hardest part of a winemaker is to succeed in making that.
Yeah.
Of course. Alright, so now we're trying the white Châteauneuf du Pape 2022. Same vintage as the last one. 2022 is rather a warm year. This is a blend with a majority of Clairette and a little bit of Roussanne.
이 와인은 블렌드.
So Clairette is an originality here because it's not supposed to be the main grape variety of the blend. Clairette brings all the tension, the minerality, and the freshness, and then Roussanne is going to give a tiny bit more of deepness and generosity to it. I have learned how to work with Jean-Marc Rouleau in Meursault. So I wouldn't say this is a Meursault, but I would say there's definitely a Burgundy style in the sense that you have a lot of minerality and saltiness to it. So my nose is not working, but normally you have phenols and a bit of anise notes on the nose, and in the tongue you have this attack of the tongue from the Clairette, this tension, then this generosity from the Roussanne, and yet this ending that comes back to you with the strong saltiness that stays on your tongue. When my mother started, she got famous at first for her whites because she was making so different whites from Châteauneuf du Pape in general, which are usually based on Grenache Blanc and Roussanne, and they are way fatter, more generous, right? And the salinity in this wine, this kind of umami flavor that stays with you, make it very nice to pair it with Japanese cuisine or Korean sashimi. Marsan will not use, we don't have it.
Yeah, you do not use.
It's Roussanne and Grenache Blanc.
Yeah.
More typical would be Roussanne 100% or Grenache Blanc 100%, which I'm not a big fan of.
Claret might give some freshness. Yeah, freshness.
100%. Tension, freshness, minerality, and more importantly, saltiness.
Salinity.
Salinity, exactement.
저희 신분 정리하겠습니다.
It was mission impossible, as we say, impossible mission. But because she loved it and she was so passionate about it, Perfect. So now we are in the heart of the topic, the Châteauneuf-du-Pape Red 2021. So this is a very specific vintage for Châteauneuf because it's one of the rainiest year we've ever had. So it means it's one of the coldest vintage we've ever had. But for us, because we are in a very sunny, in a very warm place of France, those typical years are a blessing because we can make a different style of wine. We're always reaching for more balance, more elegance in our Châteauneuf, but especially in 21, this goal was easier to achieve because we had less concentration. So this is a specific blend. You have a basis of Grenache, 65%, for all the red berries and the boldness of the Grenache. But the difference of the wine comes from the Cinsault, which is a very rare grape variety. And here you have around 20% of Cinsault in the wine. And then you add a little bit of Mourvèdre and a little bit of Syrah for the spiciness and the intensity of the palate. The goal is to achieve a perfect balance. Generosity with Grenache, elegance with Cinsault, and just enough spiciness with Syrah Mourvèdre. And this pairs very nicely with Korean food, for instance, with beef or any kind of spiciness because of the Mourvèdre and the Syrah especially. So this is our signature wine because it's my main production and it's all on my terroir of Galets Roulés, the famous terroir of Saint-Préfet.
Not too spicy.
Not too spicy. You can taste it.
Sour food.
Close to the wine.
It's okay.
Okay.
My favorite?
랍스타예요?
네, 아니라.
We're enologists. We have an enologist that works with us, and the head of the cellar. We're 5, and then we decide the blending, one step after another. And after a year of aging, we need to be sure because we need to empty the vats for the new harvest kicking in.
Okay.
So it takes us a year, and then we blend everything together in concrete tanks. So for this one, it's actually 6 months, a year, of oak, and then 6 months of concrete. Last but not the least, the special cuvee Colombis. This is a very special cuvee because it's a very tiny production. It's only 3,500 bottles per year.
이거는 되게 한정적인 수량의 와인인데요. 총 연간 생산량이 3,500병 된다고 합니다.
All of the wines we tried previously are all around my cellar in the same neighborhood. This one comes from the northern part of Châteauneuf, from 3 different plots. It is only Grenache, 100% Grenache, but on 3 different soils. The idea with this wine is to express all the delicacy and the velvety potential of Grenache. This is aged for 18 months, so a year and a half is only 1 barrel, 1 foudre stocking year.
포드르라고 하는 좀 큰 오크통에서 18개월 동안 숙성을 하고요. 레킹은 진행하지 않는다고 합니다. 레킹이라고 설명을 드리면 와인을 다른 오크통으로 옮기는 작업을 얘기하는데요. 그렇게 했을 때 효모가 조금 밑에 찌꺼기가 남는 거를 제거를 하기 위해서 보통 그런 방법을 많이 사용하는데 이 와이너리에서는 그렇게 효모를 함께 발효하는 게 조금 더 와인 풍미에 도움이 준다고 생각하기에 이렇게 같이 진행한다고 합니다.
And I have a little history about this wine. I'll be quick. Robert Parker never gave, until a certain moment, never gave us 100 points on this wine because this was way more subtle and delicate for Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And he would come every year to our estate to eat a truffle omelette in our house with my parents and myself. So every year he was coming and he was criticized for having too much of a homogeneous taste. Because everybody wanted to please him.
항상 이제 로버트파커를 어디서 찾기 때문에 인기가 많다고 합니다.
So he asked my mother, Isabelle, what do you think of my raking? And then she was, what should I say?
Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he asked, what do you think of my ranking? And she said, well, do you want me to be honest? And he said, yes. So she was honest. And she told him, well, Bob, because she called him Bob, you're one of the best wine drinker and wine journalist of the world, maybe the best of the world. But there's one thing you've forgotten about wine. When it's delicate, it's even better. And so she told him, for instance, Colombis, this cuvee, is the one you don't understand. Because it's like Burgundy, it's too much towards delicacy. And the year after that, in 2007, I think, he gave us the first 100 points on Colombis.
그 이후에 2007년에 이 콜롬비스에 처음으로 100점을 줬다고 합니다.
And at the end of his career, when he was retired, he asked to bring 3 bottles of his life if he was going on a empty island, desert island.
그가 은퇴하기 전에 3개의 와인 중에 이 와인을 꼭 넣고 싶다고 합니다.
And then he answered first Napa Valley, he's American. Second Bordeaux, because he got famous with Bordeaux. And third Colombis.
아, 와우.
제일 처음이 나파밸리, 두 번째가 보르도, 세 번째가 이 와인이라고 합니다. Do not tasting, but just a straight shot.
Maintenant?
Yeah.
The first one is a white, 100% pink claret, which is a mutation of normal claret, very rare to find, and it's only 600 magnums per year.
지금
And the second one is a very special wine. It's called F601, and it's 100% Cinsault cuvee.
이게 지금 F906-601이라고 불리는 끼베인데 이거는 100% 생소를 가지고 만든 와인입니다.
And this is the oldest plot we have in the estates. So these are Cinsault from 1928, and it's only 800 bottles per year. It's a strong alcohol that we produce that is called mar or brandy, and it's 10 years of aging in cognac barrels. So it's very delicate as a digestive.
이 마지막 부품은 마스크라고 하는